So for more insight on the Hollywood strike, we are joined this morning by the author of For the Culture, Dr. Marcus Collins, who's with us, and from Metro Detroit, actress Katie Chonacas. Also joining us right now over Zoom from LA is actor Joel Steingold. Marcus, I want to go ahead and start with you, though. Let's talk a little bit about how does this strike impact overall culture and society right now?
Yeah, when we think about television, film, it's not just entertainment. It actually helps us make meaning. This cultural production allows us to make sense of the world around us. I grew up watching Spike Lee movies, which helps inform how I think about race relations. I grew up watching The Cosby Show before we realized that Bill Cosby was a dirtbag.
Yeah, correct.
That gave me a better understanding of what it means to be a good parent beyond my own. I think this is what cultural production does for us. With television and film, they help us make sense of the world. And therefore, when we talk about how movies are made, whether they get stopped, whether television gets stopped, it has a massive impact on how we navigate the world, not just as consumers, but as people who are part of this society.
All right, well, I want to get Joel and Katie's opinion on how this is affecting them, because they are right in it. You're both actors. Katie, let's start with you. How has this strike affected you?
Sure, great question. Well, for starters, as a voiceover actor, the auditions that I get in a day, that's what I get in a whole week now. So they have really plummeted. So with fewer opportunities, and but also, you know, there's a revelation also because there's so many people on social media, actors, and who are saying all this uprise of how they're feeling, and it's really making us come together. And oh, this is happening to you. And I've never had so many actors in my communities follow me, and I'm following them, and they're being so kind and gracious. And I mean, we know about struggle. I mean, we hear rejection every single day. So
yeah, that's
we're
true.
Ready.
And you're banding together. And Joel, you are actually, you know, in Los Angeles. Thanks for getting up bright and early in the morning, by the way. Tell us how that's affected you right there in that city.
Well, I'm currently on a show called The Chi on Showtime and Paramount Plus, and we were in the middle of shooting our season in Chicago. And when the writer's strike happened, we had to shut down production. So my career life pretty much went on pause, and I had to come back to LA, and I'm sort of in a holding pattern at the moment.
Yeah, and this is a question for both Joel and Katie. I'm curious, Katie, you just alluded to this about, like, kind of, it sounds like the numbers are drying up, like you're physically seeing the changes in terms of the calls, the auditions. What are things looking like specifically for you?
Well, the thing is, there's independent films. So there's this new interim agreement, and the points on the new interim agreement, if independent productions get approval from SAG, the union I'm in, SAG-AFTRA, they can go on with production. So it's actually, you know, a great time for independent producers and actors to empower themselves and not wait for opportunities from, you know, big franchises and the ones that we can't work with right now, although those are the ones that could give us the grand opportunities that we all yearn for, that we want, that will give us a lot of accolade and praise in such ways. But it's a great opportunity. For example, my brother, Tim Chonacas, he's from here. He has Gold Tree Studios. It's an independent studio. And so people like him can still make productions and hire union actors. So there's still some hope and opportunity for us. We can do, you know, commercials, union promos. So there's, for example, another example is I'm a lead on a new podcast scripted series, and because that contract in the union is under a podcast agreement, it's different than the AMPTP agreement, I can still work on that project. So there's still opportunity for us actors to work. So that's kind of how it's looking right now. And there has to be agreements so we're all feeling just and safe and paid fairly. So.
Okay, Marcus, you're a culture expert. I want to get your opinion on this. So from a culture standpoint, do the general populace, are they on the side of the studios or the actors, or are they kind of indifferent now until their productions, they start noticing their productions aren't actually showing up on screen?
Well, I think there's a sense of they care about the actors that they have grown to love because these characters that they have invested themselves in, but they haven't felt the pain just yet. We'll start feeling it if this thing goes out into the fall. Then we go, wait a minute, where's my show?
Where's
Has it
my
come back
show?
on the air
Exactly.
yet? But then it's like, well, I still have some unscripted television that may come on that's going to come from overseas. The movies that I've been waiting for are still going to hit. It's not until I think the end of the year, January, that we'll really feel the sting. That movies that were in the hopper, that were kind of being punched up in the script to help get better, those things won't be coming out, and we'll feel the delay in a very, very, very real way.
So your prediction is January. You think like sometime after the holiday season?
That's when I think we're going to feel the biggest blow. Prayerfully, we won't get there. But I think all of this really boils down to, I think, a very simple idea that when there's new media, new technology, it requires new ways of dealing, new ways of compensation, and new ways of thinking about business. It's a very complicated matter because in some ends, there's transparency issues that benefit the studios but not the actors. But at the same time, having this lack of transparency, that is, those actors and those writers aren't being forced to look at the numbers every week that the show comes out or every time the movie comes out to say, hey, are you doing well or not? That we're just investing in the creativity. So as a result, these things aren't as simple as black or white. The viewers, us, the viewing public, we're consuming content as it is. And our hearts are with the actors and the writers because they're the ones responsible for the actual production that we consume. When we think about the studios, those are institutions, and these guys are making all the money, and therefore we see those as the bad guys. But I think it's a little bit more complicated. But at the end of the day, the writers and the actors, they're the ones who are responsible for the thing that we consume. So we need those producers.
Yeah, we certainly do. We certainly do. Now, Joel, being in LA, have you actually gone to the picket line? And if you have, what's the scene actually on the line?
I actually have not. I got to be honest, I haven't. I was out of the country for a little bit and just got back 2 days ago, but I will be getting out there this week. But I can tell you that since the writers went on strike, now SAG, Screen Actors Guild, is on strike as well. So there's been definitely a huge infusion of energy with actors and writers on the picket line. I think the studios are starting to feel how impassioned all of these creatives are, because the numbers, I mean, there's tens of thousands of members in the Writers Guild, there's hundreds of thousands of members in the Screen Actors Guild. So the energy is definitely going through the roof out in the picket lines.
Yeah, and Joel, I want to follow up with a question for you. You heard Marcus mention, you know, obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but his prediction, he's talking about sometime after the holiday season, if this looms on, you know, January. You're there, you're in LA, you've got the pulse on the people. What are your thoughts? Obviously, you know, I know it's not easy to make a prediction, but what do you think?
Exactly. I mean, what I'm hearing is people should prepare. Actors and writers should prepare to be on strike through fall, potentially end of year. You know, those are things you have to consider when it comes to, you know, paying your bills and your weekly or monthly overhead. So I think this is definitely a time to be a little bit austere when it comes to your spending. And yeah, that uncertainty is a little tough to process and live with, but it's the nature of our business. You know, we negotiate these contracts every few years, and we always have to be ready for the potential of a strike.
You know, Marcus, you mentioned earlier that, you know, the people on the side of the actors, because the studios are the ones that make all these monies, and they do still make a lot of money. But obviously, you know, the way we consume is changing. And last year, I think I read there were 600 scripted productions. So when you have that many productions, I know there's a lot of outlets now, but still, I mean, maybe the studios can't sell them for what they used to, so there's not as much money in the pot. So how are we going to come to a realization, you know, to keep each group happy with what they're making?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think ultimately this is a business model issue. The change in consumption, the change in media requires us to think about the business differently. Because in many ways, streaming companies, they're not making a lot of money. Some of them aren't even breaking even, right? There aren't a lot of them, but they're making tons of content to satiate the needs of the consumer as well as the consumption pattern. That said, they are making bets, they're making gambles on the talent of writers and actors. And the idea then is that if they're going to make those investments, then actors and writers should be compensated for those things as well. It's not an easy solution because a lot of this is unknown. And like Joel said, like every time there's a media shift or every time there's an advancement in technology, it requires new negotiations. 2007, we were talking about streaming deals as well as DVDs. Before that, when it went from for VHS, like what does it mean for people being compensated for their work? And the idea here is that we have to come to the table. Not we. I'm not a part of this, but I think those the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild, and the
AMPTP.
There, it's a mouthful.
Alliance Motion
AMPTP.
Picture and Television.
Exactly. Those
Yeah.
guys have to come to the table and think about how do you increase and optimize how every player or part of this is affected. And I think that, you know, for us here in Detroit, it's like this isn't a Hollywood issue. It's we benefit and we get penalized for it as well. Like there are consequences and trade-offs on each side. Clearly, there are actors who are from our city, who are from our region, who we care about and we're invested in. But even us as consumers, we play a role in this as well.
Yeah.
So when we choose to watch shows that are written by non-union writers, that have non-SAG actors, we are casting our vote. We are saying that this is okay. And the idea then is that we too are a part of the negotiation, because our attention, our eyeballs, our money, our time, our effort is currency with regards to how compensation is being delineated.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, in simplest terms, it's like the business model's got to change with the changing times. And it sounds like the two haven't really been kind of in tandem just
That's right.
yet.
We've seen this with the music industry when we went from CDs to streaming.
Yeah.
You had to renegotiate. What does it mean for the producers? And at the end of the day, as we mentioned, you know, cultural production matters more than just being entertained. It helps us make meaning of the world. And these writers, these actors, Joel, Katie, I mean, like, we're so indebted to the work that they do that we have to make sure that they can have a livable wage.
Well, we'll see where this goes. I'd like to thank you, Katie, for coming in, Marcus for coming in, and Joel, make sure you get down to the line. I don't want them revoking your union card, okay? Get down to the line.
I'll be there this week.
I'll be there next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Joel, thanks a lot for joining us from LA. We appreciate all three coming in. It was a great discussion.
Thank you guys so much.